Watching Nintendo make a sequel is often like watching the world's greatest dancer go up on stage and just start playing golf. Some of the time we're like, oh my god, so brave, so inspired. How did we never consider these possibilities in game design? And most of the time we're like, what is wrong with you? Literally, how did you mess this up? I don't understand you. Thus enters Animal Crossing New Horizons, and the world's worst review of it. Where there's a 0% chance of hearing that something is good, there's a 0% chance of hearing that something is bad. And there's a 0% chance that any of my dreams would ever look anything like this. Okay? Oh, hang on a minute. Video games are the greatest form of escapism available to us in our modern world, and the unconvinced need look no further than Animal Crossing, a game in which millennials have friends. If this game were even remotely realistic, let's be real here, Rolf would have killed everyone by now. Especially you, Nox. Don't think that armor's saving you, buddy. You'd end up looking like the aftermath of a bloody mess headshot in Fallout. Oh boy. Some people don't understand the appeal of Animal Crossing. They claim it is rote, boring, and shallow. These people don't understand the simple allure of a relaxing retreat. These people, likely, have very easy lives. In a lot of ways, particularly mechanically, Animal Crossing is pretty shallow, and it's certainly evolved slower than its contemporaries. Stardew Valley has dungeon crawling and romance and a fucking wizard. It took until 2021 for Animal Crossing to have vegetables. You can drink coffee in this game, and it literally does nothing. You can sit down on stuff and turn around on it, and it does nothing. You can grow bushes that do nothing. Game design juice is poured into endless arbitrary things that just seem completely pointless. The radio is on. So why do people even play this game? Cry the rich kids with real life friends and people who love them. Because we need out, alright? New Horizons in particular released in the midst of a global pandemic. New Leaf came out 5 months after a Chris Brown album. We need out! To not enjoy Animal Crossing is one thing, but to not understand the appeal? Well, I think you'd better check your privilege, buddy. Some of us had to go into real life shops to buy food in 2012. We couldn't escape Chris Brown. Animal Crossing is here to give this generation the life we want but can't have. A peaceful mirror world where we can hang out with our friends, take in the sights, and be in constant debt. The Friends, a colourful cast of quirky animals, I would wager used to be about 80% of why people liked Animal Crossing. Over the years, the series has built up a charming cast of recurring characters, and there's nothing like the thrill of seeing who you're starting off with in your village or on your island, and the horror of discovering who's barging in next against your own will. It's like playing the lottery with a jackpot as an animal with reasonable eyebrows. But New Horizons, I would argue, takes things in a different direction. Where so much of Animal Crossing's core has previously largely relied on the intrinsic motivation of forming bonds with your fellow villagers, talking to them, hanging out with them, getting framed pictures of them when they like you enough, New Horizons is far more extrinsic in its goals. Animal Crossing has never been particularly gamey, and New Horizons still isn't particularly gamey by most standards, but it certainly seeks to gamify itself more than previous iterations. Terraforming was perhaps the single biggest addition in the series' history, allowing players to customise their island to a greater extent than ever before, and also trap their villages in waterfall prisons. I would argue it's largely extrinsic because it can actively make your island more convenient to navigate and is encouraged and rewarded, particularly early on, but I'd hear arguments on the other side. Nook Miles, on the other hand, I believe are undeniable, explicitly rewarding you for doing just about anything. It makes you feel like there's a reason to be doing the daily chores like planting trees and picking weeds that you were previously doing just for the aesthetic. Oh, you fucked that one up, didn't you? Yeah, sorry. See this right here? Yeah, this is the dopamine machine. This is the single most insidious thing this game does. Animal Crossing has always wanted you to play a little bit every day, but it's never tried to make you do so as aggressively as this, rewarding you for it, baiting you into it, making you feel guilty if you don't. With decisions like this, Animal Crossing edges dangerously close to becoming the world's most elaborate mobile game. With decisions like this, Animal Crossing is Farmville for people who don't think that the earth is flat. And then there's what you do with the Nook Miles. If you're like most people, you use them on tickets to go to islands to potentially find new villagers. But there's no way of knowing or influencing what kind of villager you're going to see until you buy the ticket and go through all the hassle of going to the island. Surely Nintendo had to know this is what people would do to get villagers they liked, and left it as it is anyway? And with decisions like this, Animal Crossing edges dangerously close to being a gacha game. With decisions like this, Animal Crossing is Fire Emblem Heroes for people who might one day touch a boob. See, in its pursuit of gaminess, New Horizons goes about attempting to make tons of quality of life changes. Arduous as it may be, island hopping is more influence than players have ever had over choosing who comes to live with them. Terraforming itself presents a huge bevy of quality of life features and really can't be undersold. You can choose where new villagers move in. You can even move your own house. There are so many little changes made for the sake of your quality of life, and at the same time, there are so many little changes that haven't been made for the sake of your quality of life. Because now there's crafting in the game, and you can't bulk craft more than one of the same thing at a time, and then your equipment breaks with no warning or way of seeing its durability, and your only option is to craft a new one or buy another, and it's just mind-boggling how many little things they've programmed without ever thinking about this stuff. New Horizons' pursuit of extrinsic motivation is further flawed by what was seemingly sacrificed in the process, by which I mean the villager dialogue, which is the biggest issue I take with the game. Villagers have less to say than ever before. There seems to be more one-line dialogue than ever before, and they certainly seem to repeat themselves more than ever before. Even if it isn't the case that there's less dialogue than before, it certainly feels like there isn't as much more dialogue added as there should have been for a sequel 8 years in the making. I certainly can't say I remember having any of these problems in New Leaf. Every time a villager says the same thing twice in one day, I'm reminded that they are in fact not my friend, and simply a walking pile of code. You'd think being a talking unicorn in a hoodie would remind me that they're not my friend, but video games are a powerful thing. New Horizons clearly prioritizes its gamey systems over your relationships with your villagers. They have more context-sensitive behaviours, sure, which is very much appreciated, but the dialogue has always been where it's at, and it's surprising that it seems to have been deprioritized so much. It was never broke. Why fix it? Oh, that's right. This focus on gaminess is fascinating to me. Obviously, dialogue would have been cut due to time constraints and not out of an intentional desire to make it more shallow, but those time constraints arise from where their priorities lied, and the dialogue has not been improved whatsoever in any of the game's rather substantial post-launch DLC. Instead, the focus has gone to more systems, more content. New Horizons was criticised for lacking many of the gameplay loops of its predecessors at launch, and it's received a lot of support to patch those holes up. Diving, gyroids, the co-op. Again, Nintendo care about the mechanics and gaminess here, and not the intangibles of varied and charming interaction. What are you trying to say with this, Nintendo? You trying to say that grind culture and the overworked youth's reliance on excessive media and corporatized arts in a world of income inequality has significantly dampened the human experience? Because, like, damn. That's pretty deep. With villagers feeling more homogenized than ever before, I often have to derive enjoyment out of projecting personalities onto them. I mean, look at the way that Sprocket stares me down after he sees me digging up money. Yes, the beef we have is going to go hard. And it's a shame that I have to do this, but don't go thinking that this all means I dislike New Horizons. It's a different approach, not an objectively worse one. I do very much appreciate being made to feel like my actions are more worthwhile. There's a far more tangible sense of progression in this game than previous entries, and the free DLC has brought very substantial systems into it to only further that. It's also brought coffee, and people really wanted that for some reason. It's very understandable to not enjoy Animal Crossing, for it to not be your speed. I used to be one such person. I just couldn't get into it as much. I certainly wasn't the kind of guy who wanted to play it every day. I don't want to walk 3 feet to my bathroom to take a piss every day. But then a pink penguin with a hockey helmet moved in and started talking about eating cake, and that is totally my shit. So if you're looking at this and you're still one of those people who claims to not understand the appeal of Animal Crossing, then that's definitely because you're rich, and I think you should go fuck yourself.